Hello, you wonderful people. Welcome. My name is Roy, your British English teacher and guide to speaking English more naturally and confidently. And in today's lesson, we're going to talk about something really important. We're going to learn how to introduce yourself in English clearly, naturally, and without sounding like a textbook. So, as I've already said, my name is Roy. I've kind of already introduced myself, but I've been a teacher of English for nearly 15 years, and I've helped thousands of students in their goal towards mastering British English, modern British RP accent, and learning more about British culture. So if that sounds good, welcome to English Right Now, and please do consider subscribing. But in this lesson today, we are talking about how to introduce yourself. So whether you're meeting somebody for the first time, you're maybe starting a new English class, or answering that classic but terrifying job interview question, tell me about yourself. This video will show you, or tell you exactly what to say, because you're going to learn a simple structure for self-introduction. You'll also learn some useful phrases, natural expressions, and we'll also talk about some real-life examples that you can copy and adapt to. So if you're looking to improve your English speaking skills and make that strong first impression, you are in the right place. And if you want to learn even more about this subject, there is a free PDF that you can download in the description below. It's free, just click on the link and you can learn even more. So why is introducing yourself such a big deal? Well, it's because it's the first impression that people get of you. And in interviews, it's often your first chance to kind of connect, to show your personality and also build trust. Self-introductions are your first impression, and in many situations, sadly, you do only get one. So whether you're meeting new people, you're starting a language class, you're joining a group, you're speaking in a meeting, or you're answering that awful interview question, tell me about yourself. You want to sound clear, confident, and relaxed, not robotic, not stiff, not like you memorized a school textbook. But here's the problem. Most English learners, they either say too little, hi, my name's Roy, I'm from England, or they say way too much. And then they end up feeling nervous or unprepared. So today I'm going to show you a natural step-by-step method that really actually works in real life, plus how to adapt it for interviews. And I really hope that during this lesson, you introduce yourself. Let me know who you are, where you're watching from, things that you like, but we'll get into that. So let's talk about, first of all, some vocabulary for saying hello. Let's start right at the beginning. Saying hello isn't just hello. There are many ways to greet people in English, depending on the situation, the formality, and tone. So, some casual greetings. Of course, you could say hello, but you could also say hi. You could say hey, hello there, hey there, morning, which is short for good morning. I often say morning. I don't like to assume it's a good morning. An alternative, you could say afternoon or evening. Please note that good night is a way of saying goodbye. So, pretty much, good evening is your final hello of the day or evening. What's up? We do sometimes say, oh, what's up? But it's a bit more American. It is quite informal. Some people will use it, but it's not the most common here. Quite informal would be to just say, all right? All right is another way to say hi. Now, a lot of people ask me, what is the correct response to all right? Because it's not really a question, it's more a hello. There are two options, realistically. You could just say, all right, back. So it's like, all right. All right, this is really, really common. I know this sounds weird, but some people will kind of give an answer, but we don't go too far. So you may say, all right, yeah, you, yeah, that's about it. How's it going and how are things are two other options for kind of more informal greetings. If we're going into the territory of being more neutral or slightly more formal, then hello comes in that category. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, using that word good, makes it slightly more neutral or formal. And of course, saying things like, nice to meet you, pleasure to meet you, are other alternatives to kind of greeting or in that initial phase. I will say at this point, a lot of students mention the words, how do you do? So there's two things to mention here. How do you do is really, really formal. We don't often use it. I very rarely hear it. I've heard it once, genuinely once in the last year. How do you do? The correct response to how do you do is how do you do? It's a bit like the kind of more formal version of all right. I kind of see the word all right as a sort of evolution into informality of how do you do. Please don't answer this. The biggest mistake you could make is how do you do? I'm fine. It's not the correct answer. How do you do? How do you do? But this is really formal. I don't often hear it. And I will say this, in most modern situations, even in interviews, hi or hello is perfectly fine. Just smile and make eye contact if appropriate, and really start strong. So let's talk about the 5-step structure for self-introduction. And this is the thing that you can start to write down in the comments to really introduce yourself. I call it the NIPPP formula because it's NIPPP. That will help you remember it. So you start with the N, your name. Then you add some information like where you're from and where you live. And then you can talk about your profession or passion. That's the first P. Move on to some personal details or hobbies. That's another P, personal details. And finally, purpose. Now, this one's kind of optional. You don't have to add it. It's more for networking and things like this. But purpose, the purpose. So you have name, information, professional passion, personal details, and purpose. NIPPP. I'll write that down in the description so you can remember it. Now, I will say at this point, it doesn't have to be a monologue when you're introducing yourself. If you're meeting somebody for the first time, you don't need to give them all of the information. It can be kind of a back and forth, a natural conversation. You start with, hi, I'm Roy. And then somebody say, oh, I'm David. Oh, nice to meet you. Where are you from? Oh, I'm from... So it can be a conversation. But if the conversation is not forthcoming and you do need to introduce yourself, maybe in a group or a meeting, then this is a good structure for you to remember. So let's break it down. First of all, we say name. Now, you could say, my name is Roy, but most people will just say, I'm Roy, I'm Deborah, I'm Luciana. She's over there next to me. And if you have a kind of shortened version, you could say, hi, I'm Luciana, but my friends call me Lou. If you have a slightly complicated name or a name that's quite tricky to pronounce, you can actually make a bit of a joke of it. So you could say something like, I know it's tricky to say at first, but don't worry, I'm kind of used to it. Step 2 is information, where you're from and where you live. Now, honestly, I think these days most people don't tend to talk about age, particularly in job interviews. I wouldn't really bring my age up at this point, but some people may. I mean, it would be a bit weird for me to bring that up pretty early on. But for me, I actually live where I grew up, so I'd probably just say I'm from the Isle of Wight. But I could actually go into a few more details and say I was born in Nottingham and I grew up on the Isle of Wight, or I was born in Nottingham and now I live on the Isle of Wight. So a few key pieces of vocabulary. Originally from is something we say to mean where you were born. So for example, I'm originally from Nottingham, but I grew up on the Isle of Wight. I actually moved here when I was 6. Based in is a way to say where you live now. I'm actually based in London, or I'm based in England. And this is quite commonly used in business English. Raised in talks about where you grew up. Raised in London, things like that. Now, bear in mind, I live on the Isle of Wight. The preposition would be on for me, so I'd say raised on the Isle of Wight. But you may talk about a city and say raised in London, or raised in Istanbul, or raised in a country like Brazil. And currently living is your present location. Remember the preposition in for cities or countries, on for an island. After we've got that kind of information out of the way, we can talk about our profession or passion. So you could say I work as an accountant, I teach English online, which is actually my job. Maybe right now you're a full-time student, or if you're not working at the moment, you could say I'm between jobs at the moment. And if you do want to be a bit more discreet, and you don't have a job right now, you could just say, at the moment, I'm focusing on X and preparing for new opportunities. So maybe I'm focusing on learning English and preparing for new opportunities. But this one is a great way to talk about your profession. The 4th step is the personal touch. This makes your introduction feel real, and it's what people connect with. I'm going to give you the full kind of introduction at the end, but you could say something like, in my free time, I love reading historical fiction and baking cakes, or I'm really into photography and hiking, or when I'm not working, I'm probably playing video games or building Lego. You can guess which one is true for me. So some useful phrases here. I'm really into, I'm passionate about. Both of those kind of mean a strong interest in something. So I'm really into video games. Look, I gave it away. You could also say I spend a lot of time doing. And if you're talking about something that you are improving, you could say I'm learning to. So for example, I'm learning to play the guitar. And if it's kind of a recent hobby, you could say I've recently got into stamp collecting. And the 5th step is about purpose. Now, this one is optional, especially useful for kind of interviews or networking. So you could say something here like, I'm here today because I'd love to grow professionally and connect with new people. Or I joined this course. You could tell me why you joined the English course that I have to improve my fluency and feel more confident at work. So those were those 5 steps. And before we move on to talking about self-introduction in job interviews, let me do mine. So first of all, hi everyone, I'm Roy. I live on the Isle of Wight and I am a British English teacher, and I've been helping people learn English for around 15 years. And in my spare time, I love playing video games and building Lego. See, I've given it away. And if I wanted to add that purpose, I could say I'm here today to help people learning English around the world. And that's something that is also, by the way, my passion. Now, I'd love to read your introductions down below. Please do let me know a bit more about you. And I'd love to know who's watching these lessons. And remember, there is a free PDF that you can download which teaches you far more about this lesson. But now let's talk about interviews, that common question. Tell me about yourself. Now, I will say this, it is not the time in an interview to tell your life story. You don't need to tell them where you were born, how you were raised, your first meal, your first step. What they want is a quick summary of who you are professionally, a quick highlight of your experience, a hint of your personality, and also sort of saying why you'd be a good fit for the role of the job. And like we had that formula with NIPPP, here I have another one, NESPW. This doesn't really form a word, but it's name, experience, skills, passion, and what you're looking for. So you could say something like, my name is Roy and I'm a British English teacher. Now, I've been a teacher of English for nearly 15 years, and during that time I've helped thousands of students from across the world, helping them on their journey towards learning things like British culture, British English, and mastering a modern British RP accent. So about me, I've got a background in linguistics and teaching pronunciation, and I've worked in some of the most prestigious schools in places like London and Cambridge, and I've also worked for BBC Learning English, helping people learn English. Now, I have created 3 courses to help people learning English and achieving their goals. And I'm here today. I'm looking to help as many people as I can on that journey. So that's a little bit about me. And during that, by the way, don't forget to smile, keep eye contact, and speak from the heart. Even in formal interviews, show who you are. You are not a robot. You are a real human with a story. So now let's talk about a few common mistakes before we wrap this up. So commonly students will say things like, my name is Maria and I come from Spain and I have 2 brothers and I like football. This is too robotic. It's a list and there's a lot of the word and in there. Instead of sounding like a list, maybe just focus on a couple of key things. We don't need to bring in the whole life story. So you could say something like, hi, I'm Maria. I'm from Spain. I grew up in Seville, but now I live in Barcelona. I'm a massive football fan. I never miss a Barcelona match. Another classic mistake is saying something like, I am engineer or I am teacher. We need an article there. So we would say, I am an engineer or I am a teacher. Remember, we use the article an, A-N, in front of a vowel sound and the article a in front of a consonant sound. Alternatively, you could say, I work as a teacher or I work as an engineer. And finally, don't say, I have 25 years old. This is a classic mistake. Say, I'm 25 or I'm 25 years old. But I've already said talking about age isn't that common. But if you do want to talk about your age, don't use the verb have. We use the verb to be. I am 25. Clearly, look at me. These few details will make a huge difference. And very quickly, before we go, I'll read you a couple of examples that you may take inspiration from. If you want to be casual, you could write something like this and change the words for yourself. Hi, I'm Maya. I'm from Jakarta, but I've been living in Melbourne for the past 2 years. I work as a barista, and I'm currently studying English in the evenings. I love reading graphic novels and going to the beach. So that's quite casual. You can use that structure for yourself down in the comments. Instead, if you're in an interview, you might write something like this. Hi, I'm Daniel. I've been working in logistics for the past 7 years, managing supply chains for large retailers. I'm passionate about efficiency and organization. I actually enjoy spreadsheets. I'm now looking to take on a new challenge where I can contribute more strategically. Try creating your own now. Use the structure I gave you. Pause this video, write your version in the comments, and I'll check a few and give you some feedback. I'm really excited to meet you. So there you go, a complete guide to introducing yourself naturally in English, whether you're meeting a new friend, joining a class, or nailing that job interview. And if you found this helpful, please do give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments, how do you introduce yourself in English? And if you do want to learn more, there is a free PDF of today's lesson with example phrases and templates. The link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye for now.